The Adventures of Doug, Hector, and Sammy, a tale of courage and friendship.
Doug the dog loved nothing more than exploring the world around him. He spent his days sniffing out new scents, chasing after butterflies, and barking at the squirrels in the park. But one day, as he was wandering through the woods, he stumbled upon something unexpected. There, nestled in a pile of leaves, was a tiny hedgehog named Hector. The little hedgehog was shivering and seemed frightened, and Doug immediately felt a sense of concern and compassion.
"Are you okay?" Doug asked, his tail wagging with excitement. "What are you doing out here all by yourself?" Hector explained that he had been separated from his family and was lost in the woods. Doug felt a pang of sadness at the thought of the little hedgehog being all alone and knew that he had to help. "I'll help you find your family," Doug said, his eyes sparkling with determination. "Together, we'll go on an adventure and explore the world around us." Hector's face lit up with gratitude, and he knew that he had found a true friend in Doug. Together, the two of them set out on a journey through the woods, ready to face any challenges that came their way. As they ventured deeper into the woods, Doug and Hector encountered all kinds of new sights and sounds. They chased after squirrels, watched as a family of rabbits hopped through the fields, and even saw a deer grazing in a clearing. But as they made their way through a dense thicket of brambles, they suddenly found themselves face to face with a group of prickly porcupines. The porcupines didn't look happy to see the two adventurers, and they began to bristle and hiss. Doug felt a twinge of fear, but he didn't want to show it in front of Hector. He knew that he had to protect his new friend, so he stood his ground and barked fiercely at the porcupines. But the porcupines were determined to defend their territory, and they began to move closer and closer, their sharp quills glinting in the sunlight. Just when it seemed like all was lost, Doug had an idea. He remembered a trick that he had learned from his old friend, a wise old owl. Slowly, he began to back away from the porcupines, his eyes fixed on their quills. As he moved, Doug began to bark rhythmically, in a steady, rhythmic beat. The porcupines were confused by the strange noise, and they hesitated for just a moment. But that was all Doug needed. In one swift move, he lunged forward and grabbed Hector in his mouth, pulling him safely out of harm's way. The porcupines were left behind, still dazed and confused by the strange noise. As Doug and Hector continued on their journey, Hector couldn't help but feel grateful for his brave new friend. And Doug knew that no matter what challenges they might face, they would always be there for each other, ready to take on the world together. As they continued their journey through the woods, Doug and Hector came across a stream that was gushing with clear, cool water. Hector's little eyes lit up with delight, and he scampered down to the water's edge, ready to take a drink. But just as he was about to take a sip, he heard a faint cry for help. Looking up, he saw a frog struggling in the water, its tiny legs frantically kicking to stay afloat. Without hesitation, Doug sprang into action. He plunged into the water and swam towards the frog, his powerful legs propelling him through the rushing current. As he reached the frog, Doug could see that it was in trouble. Its leg was caught in a tangle of seaweed, and it was slowly being pulled under the water. Doug knew that he had to act fast. With all his strength, he pulled at the seaweed, using his teeth to cut through the thick strands. Finally, the frog was free, and it swam to the surface, gasping for breath. Hector watched in awe as Doug emerged from the water, the frog safely in his mouth. He couldn't believe how brave his friend was, always willing to help those in need. With the frog safely on the shore, Doug and Hector continued on their journey, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They knew that with each other by their side, they could accomplish anything. As the sun began to set, Doug and Hector found themselves in a dark and spooky part of the woods. The trees were tall and gnarled, their branches reaching out like twisted fingers. The air was thick with mist, and strange noises echoed through the shadows. Hector shivered with fear, but Doug was determined to protect his friend. He stood tall and proud, his sharp ears tuned to the slightest sound. But even he was caught off guard when a pack of howling wolves appeared out of nowhere, their eyes glowing in the darkness. Doug barked fiercely, ready to defend Hector at all costs. But the wolves were too many, and soon they had surrounded the two friends, their teeth bared in a fierce snarl. Just when it seemed like all was lost, Doug had another idea. He remembered the trick that his old friend, the wise old owl, had taught him long ago. With a loud howl, Doug called out to the moon, and suddenly the sky was lit up with a bright, silver light.
The wolves were confused by the sudden brightness, and they hesitated for just a moment. But that was all Doug needed.
In one swift move, he grabbed Hector in his mouth and sprinted towards safety. The wolves howled in fury, but Doug was too fast for them. He leapt over fallen trees, dodged through the underbrush, and finally, burst out into a clearing, his heart pounding with excitement. Hector was safe, and Doug knew that he had once again proven himself to be a true hero. Together, the two friends looked up at the shining moon, feeling grateful for the light that had saved them from danger.
As Doug and Hector continued their journey, they found themselves in a lush green valley. The sun was shining, and the birds were singing. It was a beautiful day, and the two friends were feeling happy and carefree.
But as they walked, they noticed something strange. The valley was covered in a thick, black smoke, and the air was filled with the acrid smell of burning.
Doug and Hector realized that there was a forest fire raging nearby, and they knew that they had to act fast to help the animals in danger.
Without hesitation, Doug ran towards the fire, barking and howling to alert any animals that might be trapped. Hector followed close behind, his sharp nose sniffing for any signs of danger. They soon found a group of frightened animals huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. They were trapped by the fire, with no way out. Doug knew that he had to act fast. He ran back to Hector, and together they hatched a plan.
Hector dug a deep hole in the ground, while Doug gathered up some leaves and twigs. They piled the leaves and twigs into the hole, and then lit them with a match.
The flames quickly spread, and soon the entire hole was filled with smoke. Doug and Hector led the animals towards the hole, urging them to climb down into the safety of the smoke-filled pit. The animals were hesitant at first, but they trusted Doug and Hector, and soon they were climbing down into the hole, coughing and spluttering as they breathed in the smoke. As the animals huddled together in the safety of the pit, Doug and Hector stood guard, keeping a watchful eye on the fire. The flames raged all around them, but they were safe in their smoky haven. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the fire began to die down. The smoke began to clear, and the animals emerged from the hole, blinking in the bright sunlight. Doug and Hector breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that they had saved the animals from certain danger. They felt proud of themselves, knowing that they had once again proven themselves to be true heroes. As Doug and Hector continued their journey, they came across a rushing river. The water was deep and fast, and they knew that they had to find a way across. Doug tried to jump across the river, but the current was too strong. Hector suggested building a raft, but they didn't have the materials they needed. Just when it seemed like they were stuck, they heard a faint cry for help. They looked towards the other side of the river and saw a small rabbit struggling in the water.
Doug and Hector knew that they had to act fast. Without hesitation, Doug jumped into the water and began swimming towards the rabbit. Hector ran along the bank of the river, searching for a way to help. Finally, he found a long branch that was strong enough to hold Doug's weight. He held out the branch to Doug, and Doug grabbed onto it with his teeth. Together, Doug and Hector pulled the rabbit to safety, and they all huddled together, shivering and wet. As they sat on the riverbank, the sun began to set, and they realized that they would have to spend the night in the woods. They built a fire, using the skills that they had learned during their adventure, and settled down to sleep. But just as they were drifting off, they heard a strange sound. It was a soft, gentle sound, like the fluttering of wings.
Doug and Hector opened their eyes, and they saw a beautiful owl perched on a nearby tree. The owl looked at them with wise eyes, and spoke in a soft, gentle voice.
"You have done well on your journey," said the owl. "You have shown courage, kindness, and resourcefulness. But your journey is not over yet. There are still many challenges ahead, and you must be prepared to face them." Doug and Hector listened intently, feeling grateful for the owl's wisdom. They knew that they had come a long way, but they also knew that there was still much more to learn.
The next morning, Doug and Hector woke up feeling refreshed and ready to continue their adventure. They packed up their belongings and set off towards the next challenge.
As they walked, they talked about what the owl had said. They knew that they had to be prepared for whatever lay ahead, and they felt more confident knowing that they had each other's support.
Suddenly, they heard a loud noise coming from the bushes. Doug and Hector stood still, unsure of what to do. But then they heard a familiar voice. "Hey guys, it's just me," said a friendly voice.
It was their friend, Sammy the Snake. Sammy slithered out from the bushes, and explained that he had been following them on their journey, but had been too shy to approach them.
Doug and Hector were happy to see Sammy, and they welcomed him into their group. Together, the three friends continued on their journey, facing new challenges and learning important lessons along the way.
And when they finally reached the end of their adventure, they looked back with pride and gratitude for all that they had accomplished together. They knew that their friendship and their experiences would stay with them forever, and that they would always cherish the memories of their amazing journey.
And so, dear listeners, we come to the end of our tale. Doug, Hector, and Sammy have shown us what it means to be brave, kind, and resourceful. They have faced challenges and obstacles, and they have learned important lessons along the way.
We hope that their journey has inspired you to be adventurous, to seek out new experiences, and to always be ready for the challenges that life may bring. Remember, with courage, kindness, and friendship, anything is possible.
Thank you for joining us on this amazing adventure. We hope to see you again soon for more exciting tales of wonder and imagination. Until then, farewell and happy travels.